It's a good evening, good afternoon, everyone. We are all set to begin with our today's webinar. A very warm welcome to all our participants present here today. Diversity and inclusion is more than policies, programs, or headcounts. Equitable employers outspace their competitors by respecting the unique needs, perspectives, and potential of all their team members. As a result, diverse and inclusive workplaces earn deeper trust and more commitment from their employees. A diverse and inclusive workplace is one that makes everyone, regardless of who they are and what they do for the business, feel equally involved in and support in all areas of the workplace. HR Association of India welcomes you all to the 2022 Dialogue Masterclass series on the topic diversity and inclusion. To know more about HRA and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. Request all participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Anand Dhruv, Associate Director, Human Resources, Entity Data Limited. Mr. Dhruv comes with 21 years of progressive experience in human resource management, entailing manpower planning, onboarding and orientation, performance management system, employee engagement, employee life cycle management, talent management, training and development, rewards and recognition, competency mapping, succession planning, organization development, intervention, capability building, HR operations, and analytics. A self motivated and confident individual with strong analytical skills and excellent written and verbal communication. Dynamic, result oriented with strong understanding and sound knowledge of HR functions and processes. Committed, dynamic, passionate, go getter, and a team player with managerial and execution capabilities. He holds analytical and strong decision making ability based on intuitive and logical reasoning. He has experience of working with senior leadership, having strong relationship management capabilities with stable stints in good professional organization. He is a certified HRM, appreciative coach and counselor, trainer, TDT, trained the trainer, quality analyst, and NLP practitioner. You can also follow him on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. Without wasting much time, I now hand over the platform to Mr. Anand Dhruv. Over to you, Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Faisal, for that introduction and making me a part of this wonderful learning journey. Uh, Good afternoon to everybody and a warm welcome for this small knowledge sharing platform. While yes, I would not say anybody of us are expert on this particular subject, but whatever little we have gained in our experience, whatever little we have known through peer learning and the work experience which we have, I would love to share that as a part of this discussion. So please do not treat me as a subject matter expert into this, but definitely I have a few wonderful insights and experiences which I have experienced as a professional in my corporate career of the last 20-21 years. So I have made a small presentation as a part of this entire discussion. But before I could do that, I wanted to thank HRAI for this platform and wanted to check with Faisal. Faisal, are participants allowed to unmute themselves and share their insights during the conversation or at the end?
They can. The participants need to raise their hand in case they have any
Sure.
questions, and then we can unmute them.
Great. So let me first share my screen. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it's visible.
Great. So this is what the plan is. Embracing your diversity is what the subject is. And of course, DNI is the theme. So we'll speak about these concepts in the subsequent slides. But before I do that, I wanted to share this small YouTube video with, which was from one of the organizations. And I thought it is worth viewing this. So I will quickly share this video. Just give me a minute. Faisal, I hope this is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Great.
There's no voice, Mr. Anand.
Yeah.
Just the video.
There's no voice, right? Just
Yeah.
So through while sharing the screen, you have to select the option share
yes,
sound.
of audio. Yeah. Share sound. I forgot to check that box.
The world is evolving rapidly, yet we're not
Audible?
Yes, it's
embracing
audible.
inclusion at the same pace.
We're all different, and our differences can generate various points of view and contribute to creativity and innovation.
That's why at DuPont, we believe in embracing diverse talent, valuing each member of our team, and providing inclusive leadership. We can utilize our differences to better achieve our goals and objectives. We've made a lot of progress, yet we strive to go even further.
There are still people working in environments where they feel as though they don't belong. We cannot all contribute ideas if women only hold 20% of seats in the boardrooms of top companies globally. Unconscious bias in the workplace is just that, unconscious. It occurs before we realize and negatively shapes our assessments of people, especially when it comes to decisions such as hiring, promoting and developing talent.
Research shows that diverse, inclusive teams are not only more innovative, they're also more engaged and creative. 35% of diverse teams outperform less diverse teams, while diverse companies are 70% more likely to capture new markets. Due to its subtlety, unconscious bias leads to unintentional exclusion. But you have the ability to influence change right now.
Open yourself up to new ways of doing things, to lead inclusively, and, for example,
Mentor someone who's different from you.
give an assignment to someone other than your normal go-to person.
When promoting, think about who's made contributions that you've overlooked.
Ask the shy or introverted employee for input during a meeting.
Get to know someone different from you by asking them to lunch.
Speak up when you hear an inappropriate or disrespectful comment said in your presence.
Don't assume the answer. Ask questions to understand points of view that are different than yours.
Monitor yourself and observe when your bias is getting in the way.
So commit to being consciously inclusive. Respect differences. Be accountable and embrace possibilities. Imagine the impact you can have.
One person,
One gesture,
one moment at a time.
So I loved this video, and hence I thought of sharing this with all of us today. If you realize, there were very small inputs which we can easily adapt in our day-to-day activity. Like taking an example of having a lunch with somebody whom you're not met or whom you're not aware as a person. At the same time, giving an assignment to somebody whom you have never interacted with. Such kind of opportunities will definitely give us an option and platform to interact with all of them and know all of them. And that's how the concept of conscious, unconscious bias and biases can be break apart. So without talking much on the other aspects, when we talk about D&I as a concept, let's stick to basics at the initial stage. And hence, this small presentation of mine will help us to understand the D&I aspect a little better. So what is diversity? Diversity for us, diversity for me particularly, is differences in racial and ethnic, socio-economical, geographical, and academic professionals' backgrounds. So people coming from different backgrounds. People with different opinions, background, degrees, and social experiences, religious belief, political beliefs, sexual orientations, heritage, and life experiences. So these are the different diverse options which are currently available for each one of us. And we choose and pick the way we want to as per our convenience or as per the objective which we have. Like, for example, to make a cake, these are the basic ingredients which you see on the screen, which we are going to use to make that particular cake. Now, the next question comes, diversity, the thread that holds all of us together. People often relate diversity to race and sometimes gender, and more recently with sexual orientation of that particular person. And I personally think this is pretty narrow view of what diversity means. It can also be ways of thinking and our intellectual background and training. Hence, when we talk about inclusion, the very important aspect which comes to my mind is inclusion involves bringing together and harnessing diverse forces and resources in a way that is beneficial. Inclusion puts the concept and practice of diversity into action by creating an environment of involvement, respect, and connection where the richness of idea, backgrounds, and perspectives are harnessed to create business value and overall success. So all the ingredients which we saw earlier in the slide of diversity, the ingredients of making a cake, and once processed well and everything put together with the right balance, the final product, which is the cake, is in front of you, which is the mix of all the work, keeping aside the differences. So when we talk about diversity and we talk about inclusion, somebody gave me a very beautiful example which completely changed and made this concept very simple to me. For example, when I talk about diversity, I say, I have invited everybody within the community, within my known and unknown society areas, and everybody is coming for the party. That's how I have been able to have a diverse participation in my event. But I am inviting only few to come and dance with me and not others is definitely not inclusion. When I say inclusion, I invite you for the party, I make you the part of the party, I invite you for the dance, I invite you for the other refreshments, and I am constantly engaging you all across the entire event. So this is the difference between being diverse and being inclusive. Hence, diversity and inclusion put together makes the workplace more productive. There are less biases, and obviously, overall, the productivity of the team increases. And hence, putting it together, the left-hand side says diversity, everything put together in the right balance and complementing each other becomes the inclusion. And this is what I thought is a beautiful example to put forward the point of diversity and inclusion. I'll take a pause here in case anybody wants to add something to this. Anybody has any thoughts, I will be happy to address that. And in case anybody wants to add to this, I will be very glad if you want to share your perspective on this. So I'll take a pause of a quick 30 seconds in case anybody wants to share something. Okay. I'll move on. Now, what is the difference between diversity and inclusion? A little detailed way. Diversity is simply a representation of many different types of people based on the gender, race, ability, religion, etc. Diversity often focuses on the differences and is referred to as a mix. Inclusion is a deliberate act of welcoming diversity and creating an environment where all different kinds of people can thrive and succeed. Inclusion is the act of making the mixed world. Diversity is what you have, inclusion is what you do. And this is how we create that thin line difference between being diverse and being inclusive. Simply having a diverse group, team, workforce, classroom, etc. is not enough. And currently what I see is many organizations, many individuals, many professionals are completely focusing on diversity, but not focusing more and not creating that platform of inclusivity. They are not able to achieve what they wanted to achieve. Hence, when we talk about inclusion, it's what you want to do. Everyone should feel safe and encouraged to fully participate and share, to be on equal footing as everyone else. And this is how you'll be able to create a diverse and inclusive work environment for your team members in your organization if you're focusing on balancing both diversity and inclusion. Now the question comes, why diversity matters? Diversity matters because it expands your world line. It expands your wordliness. It might be the first time you have had an opportunity to have a real interaction with people from diverse groups. Hence, it will create that opportunity and bring that entire world together for you and create that single platform to be able to converse, communicate, interact, and work together with a diverse manpower. Diversity also enhances the social development. Interacting with people from variety of groups widen your social circle by expanding the pool of people with whom you can associate and develop relationships. And it's a human tendency. Typically, we end up making groups and talk and create our small groups within the people whom we know. But when we have a diverse workforce, when we promote diversity and inclusion, it definitely enhances your social development because you keep on interacting with multiple talent all across, which helps you to develop yourself and your relationships with your associates. Point number 3, diversity also prepares us for the future career success. Successful performance in today's diverse workforce requires sensitivity to human differences and the ability to relate to people from different cultural backgrounds. Diversity also prepares us to work in a global society. No matter what profession we enter, you will always find yourself working with employers, employees, co-workers, customers, and clients from diverse backgrounds worldwide. And especially in the today's culture, today's working era, where the world has become a small place and distance, geographical distance doesn't matter. Currently, we are working with all across our manpower, our teams, our business associates, and our colleagues all across the globe. So this COVID and hybrid and technology all put together has made this entire world a global society, and we are interacting and working with all of them. Hence, diversity plays a very important role, and the right way, the right balance helps you to create that difference, and you are able to be a number one equal employment opportunity service provider, and definitely you are one of the most prominent employers who people would want to get associated with. Continuing further, interactions with people different from yourself increases your knowledge base. When you meet somebody who's not known to you, comes from a different background, definitely you get to know more about their culture, about their habits, about their country, about their way of working, and that's how you are upgrading yourself. And this research consistently shows that people learn more from people who are different from them and who can do from people who are similar to us. Diversity also promotes creative thinking because it expands your capacity of viewing issues or problems from multiple perspectives, angles, and vantage points. Diversity also enhances self-awareness, learning from people whose background and experiences differ from your own, and sharpens your self-knowledge and self-enlightenment by allowing you to compare and contrast your life experiences with others whose life experiences differ shortly from your own. And that's how being diverse and working in a diverse environment helps you to make your organization a better workplace. And last but not the least, diversity enriches the multiple perspective. Hence, diverse workforce and having diversity in your organization, in your work environment, definitely has these blue points benefits, which all of us should be able to take it further. Now the question comes, how do we embrace our diversity? Diversity is everyone's narrative. Consider your own life and everything that has shaped your beliefs. Realize that each one of us on this planet has our own narrative. No one has the same narrative. So hence, to be able to embrace diversity, we have to take care and we have to consider and appreciate everyone's narrative. Where are you coming from? When you find yourself thinking poorly of someone, stop and consider what influences have created your negative views on that particular individual. Befriend all people. If you know what you tend to avoid befriending certain type of people, go out your way to find friends of all kinds, and that's how you'll be able to create that inclusive environment. Being empathetic, empathy plays a very important role, because when you encounter anyone, try to imagine, understand, and sympathize with that person's story, with everything that has made them who they are. Actively accept and meditate upon embracing other people. With all of the diversity that comes with them, don't allow yourself to define a person based upon one stereotype and about one aspect of their complex identity. Try to accept them actively the way they are and the way they want to be accepted. Last but not the least, show compassion. Perform random act of kindness for all type of people. It can be as simple as friendly smile or holding an open door. And that's how you will be opening up yourself to this diverse workforce. And with the practice of inclusivity, you will be able to embrace diversity within your workplace, within your lifestyle, and you yourself as a person will be able to get a lot of benefit out of this entire activity. So these were the few pointers which I thought of talking about diversity and inclusion and why we need diversity and how to embrace diversity as a concept. There was one more small video which I really liked from Deloitte, which I want all of us to go through. So just give me a minute. Let me know, Faisal, if we are able to hear the audio.
Yes, we can hear.
Great. So while there were plenty of videos available on YouTube, these two videos exclusively took my heart away because whatever we want to talk from a DNI perspective, everything was beautifully covered in these two videos. My marital status, my sexual orientation, my physical abilities, my mental abilities, all these things are being considered. But when it comes to productivity, my marital status has to do nothing with my productivity. My sexual orientation has to do nothing with my productivity. Judge me by the value which I bring on the table. Judge me by the productivity which I bring into the organization. what I have my personal choices, which has to do nothing with the organizational involvement, needs not to be considered. And that's how we need to come out with our bias, with our, having these preconceived perceptions about individuals. And hence these two videos actually expressed all those points which I had personally in my mind to be able to share as a part of presentation with all of you. Now let's move on a little ahead. We spoke about diversity and inclusion. I wanted to understand from my participants, Faisal, now their understanding of equality and equity. Of late, D&I has now become DE and I. So I wanted to check with a few of my participants who are willing to share their thoughts. What do you think the difference between equality and equity? Anybody who would love to share their thoughts may please unmute or raise the hand as per the protocol and share your thoughts. But definitely I would want to hear from few of you or maybe all of you, whatever is comfortable. So difference between equality and equity, maybe by giving a small example or anything which you have in your mind. So now I keep the audience, the question open for the audience to share their thoughts on this particular point.
Yeah, so request all the audience to please raise your hand in case you have the answer.
Anything, any thought which comes to your mind when we talk about equity and equality.
You all can write it down in the chat box also in case you don't want to raise your hand.
Come on, let's be an inclusive audience. If nobody answers, Faisal, I will have this question to you. Okay, since nobody has asked question, Faisal.
So we have received one message from Dr. VLN.
Okay, sharing resources versus strengthening team. Great. Great. So, Doctor, do you want to elaborate on that? Or maybe a quick 1 minute, 30-second discussion on that? Just elaborate the audience. What exactly do you mean when you say sharing resources versus strengthening team?
Dr. William, we cannot hear you.
Am I audible now? I think.
Yes, little better.
Sorry, actually I'm at a different location.
Okay.
What I mean is actually the resources is, of course, the financial resources, like in case we are making any kind of a foreign trip,
Right.
we are giving any kind of a help in terms of giving a loan for a house loan or maybe a kind of higher education, their children higher education if they want to go. There should be a kind of a policy that resources can be reached to everybody from the the bottom of the pyramid to the highest level.
So
in a different proportion, maybe.
Got it.
Yeah.
The availability point of view.
Exactly, availability point of view. And the availability has to be more transparent. That's what I mean to say equity.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Faisal, your thoughts, or maybe somebody from the HRAI team? Faisal, Peterson, anybody from your team wants to express their thoughts, since you people have been working on this since a very long. Come on, Faisal. We would love to hear from you.
Mr. Anand, just what was the question?
Difference between equity and equality. Any thought which comes to your mind, because we all are new to this subject. While we all may be talking about this since a very long time, still we have a long way to go. So it's okay, even if we may not be able to reach the exact answer.
Yeah.
Yes, Faisal. I've put Faisal into a wrong spot. Okay, so let me make it simple for everybody. So now our focus would be more on equity, while we have spoken a lot on diversity and inclusion, wherein diversity is of people's perspective. Equity here focuses more on policy, practice, and position. Inclusion focuses more via power, voice, and organizational culture. This is what the difference between equality and equity. The image on the left-hand side talks more about equality, where if you see all the three resources, irrespective where they come from, what they belong to, where they belong to, have been given an equal support, which is not sufficient enough for the third person on the screen. Whereas the right-hand side image, which you see, is equity. Basis on the need, basis on the requirement and the options available, you divide the resources amongst all the diverse workforce on what exact their need and requirements are. So this particular image best explained me what equity and equality is. I hope, friends, this is more clear. Dr. VLN, I am sure this is what you were referring to. And Faisal, I'm sure you also had these same thoughts, but we were not able to express ourselves. So this particular image is something which I think strongly expresses the thought of equity amongst all of us. And why do we need this? Because we need to create a work culture of greater respect by honesty, kindness, compassion, courtesy, understanding, confidentiality, privacy, communicating. These are 8 standards of dignity and respect, and equity holds a very important aspect which facilitates all these across the organization. Going a level further, when we talk about the atmosphere and environment, creating that open, conducive, a fair, free environment within the workplace, the same image in a little better way. Slide number 1, as in picture number 1, picture number 2, we saw earlier. Picture number 3 talks about creating that environment which automatically supports and accommodates everybody's perspective, wherein there is no need of having these hurdles, these barriers, and once you open them, it is open for all. And this is what the entire systematic barrier, all those hindrances which are coming in your workplace, in your personal and professional lives, will be addressed, so that there is no need for any special treatment for anybody. By default, your work environment and your personal professional preferences, choices are accommodated by the organization. A little difference between the two slides is creating that environment, such transparent environment, such friendly environment, such open environment in the organization, which will ensure and which will facilitate transparency and openness, and it will be a more inclusive environment. Hence, image number 3 is the exact representation of equity, at the same time eradication of hindrances and obstacles which create a systematic barrier in the entire work culture. So these two images were something which I thought are the best when we talk about equality versus equity. Now, few of the statistics which are currently there as a part of common what do I say? Some common mistakes. I would not say mistakes, but it needs a lot of awareness. As I mentioned, while yes, there's a good progress when we talk about DE and I, but still there's a long, long way to go. For example, I'll give my own latest example. While I was filling up a form of my child for his school admissions, in that admission form, there was a mention about, there's a term, name, father's name, etc., religion, etc., which I'm not sure why is it required. And at one of the corner on the right hand side, it was written sex, whereas what they meant was gender. So again, a small awareness and a small change from scratch will create a lot of difference in the mindset, and people will have those open inclusion kind of work environment. So the right word which we all should use is gender, but many a times, even at some forums about, I know somebody who's presenting at a global platform has used such kind of words. Hence, my request to everybody is the right choice of word also plays a very important role, where the correct word to be used from a comprehension perspective is gender, but we wrongly use the word sex. Similarly, there are a lot of changes which we need to bring in our organization to be able to create that diverse and inclusive work environment. For example, once with one of my organizations, we had a speaker who was speaking on a global topic, and she was an international well-known speaker. Unfortunately, we were not aware of, and she was specially abled. And my logistics, my infrastructure of building premises did not support, it did not have a ramp for her to, walk independently with minimum support. And that put us into a very, very embarrassing situation. Hence, it is very important that when we talk about inclusive and, we talk about diversity and inclusion from equity and equality point of view, it's very important that we need to seriously study our infrastructure and create that conducive environment, that progressive environment, which creates that equity all across, and nobody in the organization should be felt left out. And hence, these are a few statistics which are the outcomes of different day-to-day work-life experiences. When we talk about a word known as aggressive in our job description, it is said that 44% of women and 33% of men would be discouraged to apply for that role. So the right word should not be aggressive. It has to be based on the JD, and the exact word basis on the requirement needs to be mentioned. If a role or a workplace was described as aggressive during an interview, 29% of women and 19% of men would decline an offer for employment. Hence, the choice of word plays a very, very important role. And hence, I say, to better ourselves, if an organization claims to be diverse in its marketing material, website, and executive communication, I trust that is diverse. And what employees had mentioned about, only 24% of them mentioned they agree. Somewhat agree was 53% because they were not sure about their own practices. Hence, it is very important for all of us to be able to communicate. There has to be a proper communication channel and a lot of awareness about D&I in your organization, so you are able to take everybody along. 19% of them said somewhat they disagree, and 4% said completely disagree. It is more from a check in the box or a paper, it's just on paper. Practically, we are not practicing these inclusion practices in the organization. And these are key statistics which we have found. Moving ahead. A small workplace has a very, very little scope of DE&I as an organization. And a large workplace starting from 1,000 to 10,000 plus, you can see the difference. So for 10,000 plus company, approximately more than 50% agreed that yes, their organization has done something or the other which describes diversity and inclusion, and a lot of efforts which have been taken in the organization. But for smaller organizations, there is a very, very less visibility. But yes, it means I'm very happy that the progress is there and people are now taking D&I as a very, very important integral element in their organization. Again, one more statistics which talks about how to better yourself. In which area do you think diversity in the workplace has most impact for the employees? And here you see pay equity, job satisfaction, company culture among employees, productivity and innovation. These were the 4 top reasons and impact on the employee workforce, which has, because of non-inclusive and non-diverse, there is a parity between the pay equity, job satisfaction, company culture, production, and last but not the least, the community impact, and at last, increased business competitiveness. So these were the few points which I had in my mind to share with all of you. Before I open up for questions, I also wanted to share one small slide with each one of you, which talks a lot about how we make our people, our employees, our stakeholders feel in the organization while interacting with them. So just give me a second. I wanted to open up that small slide for all of you. Just a second. So I would want to close the session by this slide, which definitely is one of the special slides, and I strongly believe in what I see on the slide. So I'll close this by this particular slide, which says, I have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Hence, a strong DE and I culture in your organization definitely will lead to winning hearts of your employees, of your people, because at the end, what matters the most is our people. Because of them, today we are what we are. With this, I'll stop my presentation and I will be open for questions. But before any questions, I will be very happy to hear from you in case if you have anything to share, any experiences, anything you want to add to the presentation. Thank you very much. I tried my best to do justice to DNI as a concept, and of course, wanted to help all of us to understand today the focus is of course on DNI. At the same time, we need to understand the difference between equity and equality, because today people's self-esteem, their confidence, and making themselves sustainable and self-independent is equally important. Hence, from DNI, let's shift the focus on DE and I. And that's why we say diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me. Over to you, Faisal. Thanks, Atan.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. Very impactful presentation and discussion you had. So before we move into the Q&A session, we will be initiating the poll. Request all participants to kindly share your feedback. While doing so, request all the participants to kindly post their questions in the chat box. Once again, I thank all our participants for joining our session today. We have received a lot of inquiry about the e-certificate offered by HRAI. You can claim your certificate by sharing your details, name and session attended in an email to the email ID provided in the chat window.
I'm assuming I'll also get one, Faisal.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Anand. Please ensure you do this by the end of the month. We will email the e-certificate to you based on the details received. So for speakers, we have a special gift that comes up every year. So
great. Thank you very much. Looking forward. Friends, any questions? Anything you want to share?
We have received some questions from the.
Sure.
So what is diversity and inclusiveness in the context of workplaces? How do we create diversity and inclusiveness within the organization?
Sure. So as an organization, friends, when we say we are a diverse organization, in simple words, as an employer, we are an equal employment opportunity service provider, wherein I would love to hire somebody basis of the value they bring on the table, their academics, their experience, keeping their gender, their religion, where they are coming from, their geographics aside, and placing them purely on merit. I'll give you a small example. While typically this was a challenge a few years ago, but today, of course, I think men and women, there's nothing about gender anymore. Everybody is equal when it comes to, helping the organization to grow and making the organization work better. But still we have that mindset that, having females in a night shift will be a challenge. Females would not be comfortable doing the night shifts. And I tell my, hiring managers, who said, have you ever spoken to a female and have you checked with her whether she's comfortable doing a night shift? If the answer is yes, where is the question of not giving that opportunity to her just because she's a female? Indirectly, unconsciously I am getting biased, and basis on the gender, I am not giving them that particular opportunity. And I'm glad today. I still remember with a part of my, like a job assignment with one of the largest steel manufacturing company. We started a hostel for mechanical engineers whom we have onboarded, and there was no facility for them to stay in the organization from from the hygiene perspective, from the canteen, washrooms, and these logistics perspective. These systems were not capable enough of taking care of them. But I was very happy that somewhere that shift happened. And today, I see many females coming at par on male dominant work. MSCB has hired a female staff for their, for their tower and the cabling business. There are so many beautiful examples where today all these main dominant industries, female are a part of it. Now there is no more a fireman; it is fire person, because we have females who have entered into this particular line of business. So again, when we talk about diversity, our diversity initiative should not be biased on these particular parameters, and being inclusive is considering them worth for all the opportunities which they are eligible for. And that's how, as an organization, we can proudly say that we are an equal employment opportunity service provider if we do not discriminate on these parameters and value what value they bring on board as an employee, irrespective what gender, what sexual orientations, or what physical attributes they belong to. But of course, with certain kind of people, with specially abled people, there are special kind of jobs which can be curated exclusively for them to be accommodated in the system. And today the focus has to be done on that particular part as well. I hope I was able to answer that question first.
Yes, yes. Very
Thank
nicely
you.
answered, Mr. Anand. So we have one more question from Dr. VLN saying, are we following concept of diversity, inclusivity from the West, or are we as Indians have brought out something different?
While it's a catch-22 situation, doctor, but honestly, I have no shame in saying that we have learned a lot from West. I know many organizations, and many countries where there is no option of putting marital status in your job application form, because the answer is very simple. I am married, I am not married, has to do nothing with my productivity, with the value which I bring on board. There are many organizations where you are not supposed to mention your gender. The gender option is not there in the application form. So yes, there's a long way to go, because today, still when we are filling up our application forms, I'm sure all of us can go back, including the HRAI team and myself, and check the job application form. Still we'll find fields like religion, caste, father's name, gender. I will be very happy if the word is gender. Many a times I see forms where it's mentioned sex. So again, if there is somebody weird who would just write daily, weekly, monthly, etc., etc. So the right word is gender. So again, yes, we have been influenced a lot from West, because from a positive side, doctor, because there are a lot of things which are, far ahead compared to what from an Indian context are. But yes, there is a lot of progress happening from an Indian context also, because I still remember as a part of Lok Sabha elections in 2019, one of the brand ambassadors was Gauri Sawant, who was born Ganesh Sawant. So Gauri Sawant was the promoter, and she was being assigned the role of promoter for the third gender as a part of our election process. So I see a lot of change. I see a lot of positive initiatives, and yes, at the same time, I'm also sad, or I also feel bad that we have a long way to go. But at least let's be positive that the start has happened, and yes, we have a lot of things to learn from West. But at the same time, from an Indian context, there are a lot of changes which has happened, and these changes are very promising. And I look forward for more such initiatives coming up.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. So hope Dr. VLN, you have received the answer to your question.
Thank you. So sweet of him of mentioning in the chat. Thank you, doctor.
We have one more question, Mr. Anand.
Yes.
How should an HR leader ensure that diverse teams join hands together and work for organizations' common vision, mission, and objective?
Great. So multiple answers to this, but to start with, First, let's get our basics into place. As an organization or as a HR particularly, if I'm talking about lot on D&I and my gender ratio is in single digit, first the focus should be on how to increase the gender ratio. That's the reason it's a mandate which has been made that the board of directors should have one female representation. But the question comes, why one? All of us go back in our organization and introspect and see at the leadership level, how many female heads are there in the organization? And I'm sure the answers are very, 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 it puts us into a very embarrassing situation because the numbers would not be more than one or two. Gender ratio is something which we all need to, so from a basics point of view, an organization should definitely have a good positive gender ratio. I want to share one best practices which we have adopted in our current organization. To improve our gender ratio, we have inducted 25 females in the organization as interns who have come back after their sabbatical, after their break of 5 to 8 years. So it's an Academy of Women Empowerment, and we have taken 25 females as a part of this who had a break of 5 to 8 years for multiple reasons. And again, when it comes to taking a break and taking care of a child, I have seen very few male taking that break and giving their female partners the lead. Most of the time, it's the female who takes this sacrifice and there is this break. Hence, we have inducted 25 interns, and after the rigorous training which we are doing, we are going to take them on board. So suddenly, at one stretch, we'll have 25 female employees joining the workforce. That's how we will be able to better improve our gender ratio. Moving a little ahead, as a HR, you need to also be sensitive on multiple job opportunities, which typically we don't mention or we don't quote in our job description because of social pressure, but we prefer taking only male candidate. And there are multiple reasons behind that. So let's break that stereotype. And if a female candidate is able to do justice to that particular role, why to differentiate or why to get bias from a gender perspective? At the same time, moving a level ahead, let's also create certain job opportunities for our members who are specially abled or who are differently abled, and they have a different special characteristic which can be accommodated in the organization. For example, a back-end job or accounting job, it does not have anything on front-ending or directly communicating and sitting at one particular place and doing that job. Why don't we have these special differently abled people do that job and create that conducive work environment and that logistics within our office premises so that they are able to be a part of the organization? Again, I told you, starting from basics of having a railing in your, along with the staircase, have a rail for this people to be able to move freely within the organization. So these are small initiatives which as a HR, if we are able to create and do this, this will definitely add a lot of value, and it will also create an appreciation and value addition for you, and you will be a part of this important business meeting discussions because such resources are readily available in the market. The only challenge is, are we active enough or enabled enough to be able to accommodate such resource? Hence, as a HR, let's focus on these small initiatives within the organization, and I'm sure we will be able to create that inclusive environment in the organization. Thank you, Faisal.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. So hope the future HR leaders can imbibe all the
absolutely
learnings given by you.
And Faisal, something which I want to mention, whatever we did from a reactive approach. We never thought that one of the speakers would be a specially differently abled person. And then, we could have easily created that particular, infrastructure a little earlier, so that it would have avoided us to be into an embarrassing situation. And trust me, friends, it definitely puts you into an embarrassing situation and it impacts your goodwill because these are basics which we need to create in our work environment. Hence, be proactive, not reactive.
True. Absolutely. So we have one more question. What are the key benefits of diverse workforce? And what are the key challenges organization may face with high amount of diversity in the organization?
The biggest challenge which we will face is acceptance. Still, coming back to what Dr. VNL mentioned, the acceptance from an Indian context is very, very low. We still need to accept them with open arms. At the same time, Moving ahead, and the challenges which we all face is let's get back to basics. Let's talk about our gender ratio. Let's talk about, are we able to create such positions, and forget about having much numbers. The numbers are very few. Even if we accommodate, all of them, still I don't think so it will contribute to 10 to 12% of your total population. Hence, we have a long way to go, but the biggest challenge which we all will face is the acceptance.
So we'll go with the last question. How exactly do we go about having diverse workforce onboarded? What probable challenges an organization may face in doing so?
So, multiple angles related to this. Now, if we go back to basic from a diversity, from a gender ratio perspective, there is no challenge because there are no special demands or special requirements for our workforce. So if you want to start from basic, let's try to improve our gender ratio in the organization. That's the first start, which we all can easily accommodate because that's something which doesn't require much of efforts. So just we need to change that mindset and accept both the genders openly for all the open positions. Moving ahead, we need to create that infrastructure. We need to create that environment, logistics to be able to accommodate our differently specially abled staff in the organization. At the same time, if really, really you want to do something and create that change in the organization, also do consider the third gender in your, as an equal employment opportunity service provider. Try to do something or create certain assignments for them and try to bring them in the main society so that, the discrimination which has been there since a very long time can be eradicated. So these are few things which we can start from basic, and this will immediately have a visible impact in your workforce.
Thank you, Mr. Anand, for an insightful and intriguing session.
Thank you.
There are many takeaways from this session, like definition of diversity and its importance, how to embrace diversity, difference between equality and equity, and two beautiful videos on D&I. It has been a pleasure being with you today. I'm sure our participants had a lot to learn and take away from this session. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank the association members, Geisha, NASCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, Telgro, TLE, and WICCI for supporting these HRAI events. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the links provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speaker and our participants, for joining us today. Do join us for our next masterclass by Ms. Sonal Giani, Senior Technical Advisor, IPPF South Asia Region, on 28 June 2022. That's it from our today's webinar. See you soon. Stay safe. Take care and bye for now.
Thank you everybody, and thank you HRAI team for bringing me on board. Thank you, Faisal. You did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye everybody.